Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here to share how I would use 12 by 12 paper to make some quick slimline cards. I recently had shared a slimline video and someone mentioned that they felt like they'd get a lot of cards out of a 12 by 12 sheet and make slimline cards. So when I say slimline, I am talking about 8.5 by 3.5. That's my personal preference for slimlines, because it cuts easily from 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So there will be a template and a sketch over on my blog, link in the video description. I'm going to use one piece of 12 by 12 paper and make 4 cards. They are the same exact card. I am using the Let's Be Mermaids by Opaque. I'm going to pick a pattern paper that I like both sides of. When I do these like one sheet wonders and however you want to call them, where I use pattern paper and leave no scraps, it can be nice to mix up the patterns, and double-sided paper works great for that. If the paper that you want to use up is not double-sided, my recommendation is always just to pick 2 papers and make double the cards, or a lot of them look fine if you use the same pattern on every level. I picked out a few that I thought would work well with this design. I'm going to have a large rectangle in the back and then layer 2 smaller rectangles on top of it. And I kind of know that the smallest rectangle is where I'm going to put my sentiment, and I'm going to put an image on the part of the like medium-sized rectangle that is not covered by the small rectangle. So I kind of have like an idea in mind because I've made this sketch, and this was definitely one of those ones where it kind of came together really fast. The idea, I was like, what is the most basic design I can make that would use up an entire 12 by 12 paper and work really quickly? So I'm taking this 12 by 12 paper and I'm cutting it to 8 by 12, and then I will cut that 12-inch piece into 4 3-inch pieces. So I have 4 8 by 3s. Then I'm going to take the leftover 4 by 12 and I'm going to cut 4 4 by 2s and 4 4 by 1s. Again, the measurements are all on my blog. You can download it, PDF, print it out, and you don't have to worry about the measurements here. Now, I was having a bit of trouble here with my camera at the beginning, so it didn't show me cutting out the cardstock. But here's where I'll cut out the slimline cards. So you see I take an 8.5 by 11 and I cut it down to 7, and then I'm going to score it at 3.5, and that'll make a long skinny card for me. Now I like to use mats because I think it helps to break up the pattern paper, so I'll use solid cardstock for this. I like to get mine at Michael's. I use the Recollections. You can get a lot of the 110 pound for a good price, and you'll have a bunch of color options as they've expanded their line of 110 pound cardstock. So that's what I've pulled from. I actually found with this particular design, you were able to cut out the mats without really leaving a lot of waste. So that was kind of nice too. I don't like to necessarily have a ton of cardstock scraps on hand, but in terms of using cardstock scraps, if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know that I'll use them to cut out word sentiments, like word dies. I will stack them together to create like foam tape, fake foam tape. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. And I also I go to my pattern paper stash, my cardstock scrap stash first when I'm making mats for a new design, rather than always cutting into a brand new piece. But I find that cardstock scraps are a lot more manageable than pattern paper scraps. So that's my preference, is to use up all the pattern paper regardless of the cardstock. Now here, you can see how I kind of like mass assemble cards, and it's 4, so I guess not too much of a mass, but you could cut out a lot more pieces of 12 by 12 paper if you were trying to use them up and mix up the different patterns in different ways. And with this design, it is, again, very simple, so it allows you to work really quickly. Like, you don't have to cut out anything with the dies, and I'm going to overall keep the card really simple for that same idea. So here again, I'm going to mass assemble. I love my ATG for this because it applies adhesive really quickly, and when you're working like this, you use a lot of it. If you buy your ATG tape in bulk, it becomes very economical. I know there are a lot of other adhesive options out there, but for me, I can't seem to find anything faster and cheaper. And so this is what I personally like. And if you do have any trouble with your ATG, I do have a tips and tricks video on my channel that kind of gives you some ideas of, how to load it, how to use it, just so that it works a little bit more smoothly. Now here, when I layer this small skinny strip, it's going to hang off the edge of that medium-sized rectangle, and I want it to hang off but be smooth. I don't want it to sort of bump down onto the cardstock. So I took a piece of scrap packaging here, but what you could do is your scrap cardstock, glue 2 layers of it together, and then cut off a piece of that and layer it behind. This just happens to be like the little cardboard they use in packaging sometimes to make something a little bit stiffer, and I hold on to that too. You could of course just recycle it, but why am I going to pay for foam tape if I can use trash or recycling instead? So mass assembling everything here. I'm not too worried about exactly where I'm placing any of these elements. I'm kind of just eyeballing it. You could measure from the sides if that's more your thing, but I generally find this works out really well. I'm ready to add my images, and normally I would color images. I love coloring, but sometimes you do want to make fast cards. So using the coordinating stickers is great. And also when I bought this Echo Park warehouse box that I'm using this pattern paper from, and I shared a haul of that too if you're interested, but when you get these collections, it can be really nice to use it all up at the same time. And even here, I'm going back and I'm taking those little stickers and I'm making sure to add a few of them to each of these cards, because I find sometimes I'll pick out a sticker for the main image of my card, and then when I have used the sticker pack a few times, I have too many little stickers left over and I'm not really sure what to do with them. So there's many great mermaid and other themed stamps out there that would work perfectly for this, and I have many little tutorials showing how I Copic color to combine, but sometimes it's also fun to take the easier route of using the stickers. So I am going to stamp out my sentiment here. I have die cut and created this template that I'm using here in my MISTI, that craft cardstock. I cut out some of my favorite banner dies. Then I took a piece of painter's tape. It's the Frog Delicate painter's tape, and I laid it across. So that's the yellow that you see. That is the sticky side of the painter's tape hanging out, so that I can pull up this sentiment banner here and lay down a new one and stamp a whole bunch in a row. And I use this one craft template that I created over and over and over and over and over again. And I feel like it has saved me a fair amount of time, and is another way you can make the card making process quick. You don't have to make the card process quick. Sometimes I take a really long time and I color a very elaborate Copic background and I'll spend hours and hours on one card, and that's great too. But I just want to, here on my channel, try to share some unique ideas, and I hear a lot of people saying, hey, I really want to use all these crafting supplies I have. So I want to share ideas that will help you to get using them. Also, this is a sentiment is from a Heffy Doodle stamp set. You'll see that a lot of times the stuff that I'm using on my channel isn't the latest and greatest, may not even still be available. And again, that's just because I just want to show you some ideas for how to use your stash. And I want to use my own stash and not just try to sell you the latest thing every time. Although, of course, new releases come out that are super cute and I can't resist sometimes. But just so you know, if you're like, well, why are you sharing products we can't get? It's because I really want to share the ideas. That's kind of my focus here. Again, I'm going to pop these up with some old packaging. Cardstock would work, foam tape would work, whatever, but it just gives a little bit more prominence to the sentiment, and that will finish off my set of cards today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I will leave you links to the products that I can find in the video description below, as well as to my blog where you can get this PDF and make your own stack of Slimline cards using up that 12 by 12 paper. Thanks so much. Have an awesome day. Bye.